Maasai ngalla do kan la de wa ammu arale gina ayu amma kada ramara rolo show bewa dolla na to kidi pa ya ga ninye arishwa na to kidi marudwa pa ruma to shuku ya rishara anate to
Kaigila maton narola mkompo naing'ua Kisokon eruakata lo nkwapi duo natijing'aka enteke Kenya nedukuya.
My name's Samuel Nangiria, and I'm the lead person in this delegation of the Maasai visiting museums in UK.
Kaji Juliana Naramole Mashati naing'ua Kenya Narok. Ategeluaki ntomonok ormaasai peyie alotu represent ntomonok ormaasai pee eponu adol imasaa natii enakop ang' ormaasai.
My name is Evelyn Kanei. I am from southern Tanzania, from the Irparakuyo Maasai section. I'm here to, first of all, represent my community that is located far away from other Maasai, because most of the Maasai are in northern Tanzania and are in Kenya, but we are way south.
My name is Yannick Ndonyo. I am from Tanzania, and this is my second visit in the UK to explore cultural Maasai objects in UK museums.
James Lole Wumbunu, Mwa Tanzania. Na ore paati ene naa Maasai ake wageetuo asuju natejo ketii ena museum.
My name is Amos Leuka. I came from Kenya. I was chosen by the traditional leaders.
I'm Laura van Broekhoven. I'm the director of the Pitt Rivers Museum, which is one of the 4 museums of the University of Oxford.
We have been visiting UK museums for a way to find mutual ground between the Maasai communities and to find the ways of redress in a way that to bridge the gap between what the museums don't know and what the Maasai know, and they feel that it is not being addressed by UK museums and by holding their traditional and cultural artifacts. So redress is finding a common and mutual ground between these museums and the communities of the Maasai.
Ore esiai oontomonok tena siai nikietuo naa ore ntokitin kumok tenewueji naa ntomonok etooruoki, ore nkulie tokitin naa ore nena masaa amu naatiripaki naa ntomonok naatiripa.
It is actually very important that women are represented in this project, because in the Maasai culture, or even most African countries, the women are really the custodian of the culture. They give birth, they teach the children things about life. It is a male-dominated society, so it is important that the women's voices are heard.
The Pitt Rivers Museum has collections from peoples from all across the globe. And one of the things that Pitt Rivers Museum has put central and core to its strategy and its vision, and the reason why we are here really is to actually reach out and engage with all the people of who we have collections that we feel have a very strong connection to those collections.
If you want to bless your household, you want to bless your cows, with the help of or the guidance of a spiritual leader, you have to light a fire, and this is how you make the fire. So to purify your home, to purify the cows, and to purify the family as well, you have to make a fire using this.
How would it work? How would you use it to make it? How does it make fire?
Okay. So for an IG group, beginning of an IG group, it is the members of that group who will make fire.
Right.
So, for example, James and myself are now mentoring a group. So, if a boy is circumcised, which shows that he's graduating from being a boy to a Moran, a warrior, we go, we make fire ourselves.
Right.
And then we rub the two sticks together.
And you do that with your hands
Of
or
course.
with the bow?
No, with
with
your
the
hands.
Right, okay.
With our hands.
Wow.
We rub them together until there's fire.
Right.
And we use that very fine bark, dry, with the leaves. So that when the fire is made, and we have to burn the leaves of that tree in a way, and the smoke gives life or gives meaning that it is now the beginning.
I was once at a museum in New York and Washington, D.C. And in those museums, I saw a lot of artifacts from Egypt. And then I was just wondering, why don't they give them back? So a few years after that incident, it is happening to me to learn that a lot of the artifacts from my own community is in the museums in the UK.
We have also been able to understand that there are a big knowledge gap in terms of narratives. Completely, in some cases, you find an object, it has no narratives connected to it, only the dates collected and maybe the place it was collected. Nothing like local names, nothing like significances culturally. So this makes it more important for us to engage as Indigenous community directly to make sure that we are represented properly in the museum. This shows to have been collected 1960 and got to the museum 1996. And its root here is a very significant artifact worn by senior women and also worn in very important ceremonies. And this is also something that connect the daughters and the mothers. So from what the spiritual leader said, the owner, who was a mother, was killed and she was carrying a baby.
Yes, seeing those artifacts, looking at them, touching at them, it makes you sad, but at the end of the day, there is hope, because the museum staff have really opened their doors, and they kind of acknowledged that these things will not sit in the UK museums forever. So I hope that sooner or later we will get those things out of the UK museums, and our societies, our nations will move on despite what has happened during the colonial times and other times.
We've been able to find two types of artifacts. One is the general artifacts, and another one is culturally sensitive objects related to marriage, inheritance, and objects that are related with big ceremonies in Maasai community that you can never lend, you can never give, neither sell. So this category has been more problematic in terms of how do we get to know how they came, they ended up here in UK.
Angasa ore na duya na iwa atum emion sapuk oleng ormarei lelati ai laiwa atum adol ajo ketii sininche masaa enye enewueji naa kayiolo sino utii nayiolo enegira aimaa nayiolo enikununo ilo marei neeku kwanza iwa atum osinari lo tiatu tenkalo ilo marei amu kayiolo shida naata tanakata neeku mayiolo ake tenaa kenoitoi apa naa eimu shida enye. Ore sii enkae naa anoto sii osina sapuk peyie alotu ayiolou ajo etaraki entomononi naata enkerai kiti naa kayiolo emion entomononi neeri ning'uari enkerai nebaiki neshomo sinye ina kerai alo aye ashomo alo aikaja neeku natum sii anoto sii ina mion oleng entomononi natayiolo ajo ketara.
This is why we decided to bring a spiritual leader here to be able to help us with spiritual guidance, connecting with ancestors, to be able to establish exactly how they ended up here, where are they from, whether we can also be able to trace the status of families that they came from.
Ore enoshi ena siai enkidong naa iteruaki naa apa ena siai etilaa kakuyiaa naa kiroshi oleng naa entoki emaana oleng tormaasai amu kedol intokitin apa naatulusoitie nedol inatii siadi naa ninye oshi kiasishore te Kimaasai.
These artifacts are in this Pitt River Museum and the Cambridge, and the chief spiritual leader said the consolation has to happen with ancestors, including maybe trying to reach out to the families if they are still if they're still living or if they are still there. And we would like to get a collective kind of a guidance on what do we do with these things. Maybe we take them back with us.
Neeku ore naa ng'ole pee kiponu enakop nikiponu aosh ninye tenakop nikiponu adol nena tokitin netaa kesipa ketii kuna ormaasai nanoto pookin mpaka natum irmareita apa oing'ua.
Okay, you ask the Kalabash, but we don't know these things. We don't know the history of it, so we would like you to help us.
So he's trying to establish the families first. He has established the families that it was taken from for two of the objects, and then he will establish how it was taken. So was it robbed or was it stolen or was it
sold?
And he's already seen that there was a lot of conflict involved with the families, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Ore taa ina netadua naa ng'ole enkidong ajo etaraki kulo mareita naa kumok ewueji neemutua kuna masaa amu ketii enaa ore nabo neemayie iltung'anak 5 ore nabo neemayie iltung'anak 2.
And this is an important moment when it comes to this spiritual guidance, because the whole idea has been whether we leave things to continue lying in these museums, whether we reunite with the family, whether we perform anything to show that these things are completely different from the rest of collection in the museums. Is saying, okay, that is partly taken care of in terms of you should keep them the way you've been doing it until he is able to give us the guidance on what should happen, because he's trying to consult the families and also try to see the status of the families.
Nekiyiolo ake sinche atushukoki sinche endae enkabila kinyi teneidipayu sinye aposotu alang' ontae.
He says the final instruction on these specific items will be given after we've gone back and feed him back, talk to him and tell him about what we saw and also meeting physically his son. So until we are back is the time you'll be able to give the instruction.
When the Loibon was tracing the object, we are able to discover that many of the objects were taken under duress. And it is really a lesson to me because I never knew that. But coming here, I have come to learn that, and I understand that museum is where a lot of our history is hidden.
We feel very empowered that the traditional institution has been able to detect or to locate, to know the families.
I was very surprised to find one of those artifacts is from Molel clan, which I am from. And it gives me, makes that artifact very much alive. The artifact is here, and it is connected to me. What do I do? What do I do with this thing? It means I cannot just go and bury that message or bury that revelation. We have to do something about it because it is so sacred and it is here. And I have that obligation to inform my fellow clanmates.
The activity that I want to know more about the museum is about the education department in particular. What are they educating the kid? If the information in the museum are not properly interpreted. So I have learned that what they are doing, they are still giving the same wrong information about the Maasai. So I want to tell the museum that let our information be told correctly.
And it's just really interesting to see how little meaning we're actually able to transfer of any of this currently in our displays. It's just almost appalling.
Well, yeah. So this object would almost signify the end of end of a period.
This signifies the end of a period. So when something's done, when this thing is given out, it's now you and that. So the community have washed their hands and now give you the blessing. Yeah. That is in our Maasai concept. We normally say which family, these two families have done the wrong thing. We need to bring them together. This is how we can reconcile. This is the payment for all this. And the whole other community will be witness that it has happened. Today we are finished. Whatever has happened in the past, we have forgiven each other.
If you come here now, you will not look this item twice.
No.
No. That's so small,
then you move,
then try to get
then you move on.
Yes.
But if you move and if you come to this and you read the item with what we have been describing and explaining, anybody else from Oxford or from outside will provide attention here.
Yeah.
Then they say, so this has bigger meaning, and we, as a community from the Maasai, we have been able to remove bad omen from families and help families grow.
Because without that story, it's just
a metal.
It's a metal. With the story, it then connects to humanity.
Exactly. This is what we wish the museums can do. Connect all this. This all of them from Asia, Africa, from Europe. I feel pity for you because there are so many. I don't know many years.
And I don't know how when.
It will be many years before you finish this.
So what we would do as museums is try to piece together the history of specific objects or specific parts of collections by going to archives. So you've had to go to Birmingham, the National Archives in London, where else? The Bodleian Archive. So many different archives to actually see, is there anything written from these people or about these people that we can put together and sort of get more insight into what was happening.
So I've been trying to look at the historical context and trying to find out as much about these collectors and also what was happening at that time in colonial East Africa.
What we notice is there's big gaps of information where actually they didn't find it important enough or the records were not kept, because often they would keep diaries, for example, which would have a lot more information. If we don't find the diary, we don't have the information.
The final person is Phoebe Summers, who collected the Sarutia in 1960, so much later. And she is a teacher first in Kenya and then in Kilimanjaro area in Tanzania. And in her letters, she's always writing letters home. There are 3 references to buying things. And she seems to be quite, she goes up and asks someone if she can buy something. So she went up to one of them and started taking photos. One of the men had a very good rungu, so she wants to buy it. So she initiates the purchase. So there's another one here from January 1967 when she's going on a safari and she's at Kika Rock. And she said, we had some amusing interludes on the way there with the Maasai. I got out of the car on several occasions and talked them into bartering their snuff boxes and necklaces with me. They were rather surprised, but very pleasant. And I succeeded 6 times, having got 3 of each. So 3 necklaces and 3 snuff boxes in that particular incident.
If these 2 systems are going to give us like a clearer picture, then we might see the potentiality of using traditional, the spiritual system in trying to help us in defining kind of a partnership that we would like to see in the future. So this is what to say that I think for us, the Maasai community, 100% we trust the spiritual system. Yes.
And I think what we're trying to do now is to bring together knowledge systems, integral knowledge systems. So there's a knowledge system which is based on traditional knowledge, of the traditional system of leadership, and the spiritual leadership that we're bringing into, which is a very innovative part of this project actually, where we're looking at how can we together sort of look at finding coherences. Are they overlapping? Are they contradicting themselves? Are they actually bringing in new bits and pieces of information? And to me, it's been really interesting to see how actually they've really been sort of, they seem to be quite similar in presenting a coherent picture of lots of people having to flee, difficult situations where people were needing to be fighting each other. Obviously, all of that within the bigger colonial framework.
And for all this time, the Maasai community has relied on spiritual capacity, spiritual power. Now they have been accurate 100% on issues, on weather, on even conflicts. And so, as you say, this is an innovative part of this process. We will, I think it is an opportunity to see the relationship between the 2 systems. And this will give us more legitimacy, more relevancy in engaging more tightly with this process.
We had a meeting where we were all sitting around the table and looking at, sort of comparing notes almost, or sort of having, looking at, okay, this object seems to have been taken so many hands, this time period more or less, what do we know about the collector, where did she or he go? And it just really, really was so remarkable how many aspects were very, very compatible with each other and actually sort of filling in different gaps. There was a really strong statement from Le Marron where he said, you don't have to doubt what the gourd says, what the ancestors say is the truth. They have no sort of extra other agenda in this. And I think that's where that was really important, a very important statement, I think, to hear. It also reflects how much trust there is in that knowledge system and in the spiritual leader. So that was really quite an important moment, I think.
We are coming from Oxford now, traveling to Cambridge, in a museum there, in the university. We are going to do an analysis and a survey of other Maasai artifacts in the university there. This is my first time in Cambridge, and I'm hoping to see as many as possible Maasai artifacts. I am not hoping to find some of the sacred objects because it is going to be another shock. The sacred objects, especially those that can be only inherited by a father to a son, should remain or should only be found in Maasai families. And if they are here, it means those families are no longer complete. or purified, so to speak.
And can I just say it is an incredible honour and a privilege for us to welcome you here. We've not had the privilege of welcoming Maasai people before, so this is a first for us. It is a historic moment, and we are really grateful to you for taking the time to come and look at material that belongs to your communities, belongs to your history, and help us start a journey to understand that collections, those heritage better. So I have to say that I am sorry that we have not had the chance so far to bring you, engage in a dialogue with you and get these stories right.
So the British or maybe the England population, you people who are here now are innocent, we are also innocent. We need to use the object to connect us and start feeling about humanity. One question is to the museum and maybe to how do you feel having all these things for the last 100 years and so, and you didn't like bothered to seek for maybe information or maybe engaging the communities of origin?
It's unfortunate that has not taken place.
It's not just a staff box. I think something is more than that, symbolically and also the way we use it. And it is something that is marking some important rite of passage. Like it's only like an elder. We have ceremonies marking points where a man or a human being in Maasai community has to go through. You must get to some ages and have gone through a complete course of Maasai trainings to be able to be given this. So this is not only a snuff box, but more of something that marks the beginning of a life where somebody is regarded an elder. I hope there are some other narratives behind or other history. Is this the only thing you have about this particular? Do you have any other information regarding this? You don't. So this is the only thing you have.
Very little. So I can read you the entire record.
Okay.
So this is the handwritten record with which it was when it came in. A pair of buffalo horn snuff boxes, urn-shaped, decorated with coloured beads, with hide caps, sliding on iron chain slings. So it's very much a physical description.
Yeah, physical.
You know, it's what you're looking at.
So the relationship that builds from this fire stick, which is actually, this is called Ripiron in Ma, and this is called Endole. In terms of significances and symbolism, this is actually one of the most important. This is one of the most important center, and also the umbilical that connects the people throughout the life, and it doesn't expire.
So to me, this is, I have to say that I was surprised when I saw it in the email, but actually it just makes so much sense and makes the point of why conversations like this are so important. You know, something that looks so, that to our eyes just looks so, I'll say, insignificant. When you know anything about it, suddenly becomes the most important thing on the table. And so that's, thank you for that, if nothing else. That's amazing.
I mean, there should be a relationship between the item, not just the collector, but to whom it was collected from.
Absolutely.
Because then they will know their culture, the way of life is helping, informing and changing and interacting. Right now, there's not much interaction between this product or this item and the Maasai from whom they were collected.
No, absolutely.
No.
I mean, but I can also say that for this kind of artifact, there probably hasn't been any interaction with anyone for a very, very long time because it's been in the museum store for so long. You know, that it hasn't been on display.
Quite very interesting that they don't expire. We can make fire now from this. Just less than a minute and fire comes. The smell of fire.
Just leave it.
Yes.
So, and here, the entire documentation attached to the object is that. So there you go. But
Yeah.
Amara ni mwa. Wait, you can know mwa.
We have seen an artifact like this one in Pit Rivers Museum. This is called Qatar, and unfortunately, the Lebanon yesterday was able to identify one Qatar as belonging to my clan, which is very shocking. Qatar is really shocking because when the father passes away, one item to give to the son.
We have this spiritual institution, and they have never been to Europe to any other apart from the Maasai land in Tanzania and Kenya. But one of the complex environment that we had to bring him is because of Qatar. So, and it's very shocking that I wish you know how we feel and the way we are trying to manage our emotions when you see such things.
When I see the 6 El Qatari at the Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology in Cambridge, it really caught my moment, and that is what I remember most, because I was not expecting to see this thing. It's like I'm seeing 6 dead bodies.
When I saw the objects in Pit River Museum for the first time, I told them, despite the fact that they are here for the last 200 years, they are breathing in the shelves. You think the communities are dead, cultures are dead, but the knowledge that used to develop the objects is living. So for us, this journey is lifelong. This journey is meaning a lot, not only for the indigenous communities all over the world, but also for the entire planet.
When we were explaining yesterday, you see the object, but we see much more. And I would say those the traditions and the cultures that indigenous communities all over the world hold up to strongly is because they have a lot of meanings to their survival and their livelihoods. And it is time, I think, for the museums like this and the Pit Rivers and the rest to reach out to these communities, actually to learn a lot more. Because the orchidon we saw yesterday, or the snuff box, and the fire making package means a lot. It maintained relationships, discipline between generations, and this is what is keeping those communities a community as they are now. They also have a lot of meaning on how they manage resources, how they manage land, and how their lands probably have remained as natural as they are today. And so all these cultures and these traditions, in a way, are ensuring sustainability of people and lands and the resources. And I think you should reach out to these communities to learn more and strengthen those cultures, because they ensure a lot.
I have to, apologise personally and on behalf of the institution that it has sort of taken us so long to understand that history and try to engage with you and put together a better understanding.
When we were meeting our chief spiritual leader, he said, we know that the people in the museums are not the people who brought the artifacts into the museums. The shame will be if they renounce to collaborate. This will be the shame, and it will put more darkness in this process. But if they open up their hearts, they open up their minds, because this is a learning process. We are all learning.
We are here on a mission, and a peaceful mission. As we have advised by our spiritual leader when we are leaving home, one of the things he stressed that is peace.
We have been struggling with the current waves, or the way the legacies left by colonial and the scars and the wounds. But this is our time. It's going to be our century to start retrieving, because we have not gone far with struggling with land rights, cultural security. Our governments all over the world couldn't make sense out of the way we live. They have inherited colonial legacies. They've inherited colonial marginalization, inherited colonial discrimination. So this journey is not a journey of seeing the objects. It's a very holistic process. That has a meaning beyond the Maasai people, that's going to contribute to saving the planet.
We are coming to London to visit the BBC radio and television. It is important that we tell the world and explain correctly what we are doing. And using radio and television is a great opportunity. And the BBC is a wide-reaching media organization. It goes all over to our villages, our country, and everybody listens to BBC. So it is a great opportunity for us.
This is our friend Zura Linus from BBC. And she's a kind of a key person, presenter with the Swahili World Service, and I'm sure she's very interested with the story anyway. We are Maasai community, is our spiritual leader,
and we are very, very grateful. We are very honored to be here to share and participate in this very important event. And our spiritual leader is going to put the offering olive oil branches and some herbs from our land in Tanzania and Kenya as part of sharing the spirit of wisdoms and our culture and the way we connect very closely with lands, water, and everything that surrounds us.
I am quite amazed at how much we've moved forward. There's still a lot of work ahead, but we really have made great strides, I think, in both finding the spiritual guidance, combining knowledge systems, and getting to know each other better.
I am seeing a positive result because the museum have already committed that they are ready for partnership, and the leadership of the Maasai have said previously that they are also ready for partnership as long as they respect our aspiration and our existence as a community, as a people, and they will not see maybe one is superior than the other.
If you really truly want to do decolonial science and decolonial academia, it means that you are taking each other's knowledge systems seriously.
I will also respect the partnership when it treats the object of sacred importance with the respect they deserve.
And we're also very grateful that there has been so much input from the whole of the communities through the feedback sessions that were held. So the whole Maasai community, having been consulted, having been able to speak, also expressed their concerns.
So when we go back, we will hold meetings to present them with what we have found here. We will gather all traditional leaders with our senior spiritual leaders, Leader Mokombo, to provide and present the feedback of what we've been doing in the UK for the last 2 weeks.
I would really like to express my thanks and my gratitude to Mokombo, Laibon Mokombo, for trusting us as an institution and me personally also as a person to bring this process further, because this is actually what has been such an important component. This, without the spiritual guidance that we've been given, this would have been impossible.
I have been involved very closely with the process of trying to understand, to know, to identify our cultural artifacts. We would like the museum to know that you are not holding the artifacts, you are holding the communities. You are holding a very horrible history that our people have gone through. You are holding a secret of exactly what happened. And you are holding the keys to be able to enable the communities and people, individuals and communities, to understand. And from that understanding, we will be able to get a new direction, retrieving the history and setting the right history, setting the right information. Because it's only then that we can think about radical change. Unless we learn, unless we understand, unless the museum is ready to compromise some of its establishing principle to be a place of people, to be not to be a place of artifacts, like to be a home of people, to understand the people, to understand the feeling, to understand the emotion, to understand part of history, what we've gone through as a people. So if we need to get radical change, it's actually the museum has to decolonize its practices. The museum
has to be not for science alone, but for humanity. We've been feeling emotional. We've been going through radical kind of vibration in our hearts when we see this object. These objects, you see objects, we see our parents, we see our ancestors. It's an opportunity that we can retrieve the history, and history will help us confront the current struggles. And I look forward to see more of side of engagement with other indigenous people all over the world, because the healing is not for the Maasai alone. It's the healing of the whole planet, because the planet is reacting. We see the planet is shaking. Everybody is worried about the future, climate change. But it's the result of irresponsible kind of life we have lived. We have detached ourselves from nature. We have detached ourselves from cultures that have permanent relationship with nature. And we've been dwelling with science, investment, money, and all this. And I think everyone is now a witness that it's time to reflect. And indigenous people will lead the world in that direction of reflection. Thank you.